Hey everybody, Karen the Warp Spinster here. Thanks for joining me today on my channel. This week, I want to work more on Snow White's apple. You remember last week we did the sunburned bumblebee. And this week I want to see what we can do to make that look more like an apple, whatever we do with. So to begin with this week, we're going to start with an apple shape. And I will sort of freehand an apple, which will probably look fairly abstract, on some fusible web. And I actually think I'm going to make 4 of them, and you'll see why in a minute. Depending on what happens with the first one, we may not do anything with the other 3, but that's the first plan, is to make an apple, and we'll make 4 apples. And we'll take it from there. First of all, I want you to notice I have a new cutting mat. It is larger and it is new, and I have to say it's a little like changing your rotary cutter blade. Why did I wait so long? They're pricey, of course, that's the main reason. But it's really wonderful, and you don't have to look at that old pitted mat that I had. So yay, happy smiles all around. I will be back once I have cut myself some apples. I have rough cut 4 apple shapes out of fusible web, different sizes, different shapes. We have one that's likely, I don't know, a delicious apple, which frankly isn't my favorite apple. I'm a Gala apple kind of girl, but a Granny Smith for baking. Anyway. And then I have also selected some fabrics, maybe for a Golden Delicious, a couple of red ones here, green for some Granny Smith, or this might be like the inside of an apple. So we would have a red rim, and then this is the inside. Not sure about that. Don't know if I'm doing that today. And I rounded up the 2 leaves from last week. And now I am going to distribute these. Of course, I'll put that one aside for now. Do I want to do a Golden Delicious? No, I'll do a couple of reds. Oh, I might do that. Here's my thinking for one of them. I want to do one just straight up, flat out, similar to what we did last week. But then I want to do one, I think, that is sort of nested inside the other. This is too large for that, though. So I will start out first with just, say, this apple and this fabric. Then we'll try cutting it out and see what happens. So once I have fuse that to the back of that fabric, I will then applicate it to a black background. And when I finish that, I'll be back again. While I was away, I did a second apple, which I have not yet fused on. In a stripe fabric. It's a fairly subtle stripe. Hope it isn't freaking out your eyes. And this is trace from this one, so they're the same apple. I think I might want to trade out slices as we go, and then I'll end up with 2 apples. But I thought that might be just a little bit of extra added interest in there. And I'm getting a stripe in. May not be a black and white one, but I'm getting in a stripe. So I'm going to finish fusing this, and then I am woefully low on red thread. But I am trying to I guess it doesn't really matter which one I use. This one is more cottony. This is definitely rayon. So I think I'll try this one. In terms of the stitches, because this is similar to a circular in that I'm going to come back and they may not meet. The beginning and the end may not meet if I use a pattern stitch rather than a zigzag. The zigzag may not, for that matter. But I remember that I'm going to be slicing these, so pretty good chance it will end up in a seam, and I can actually arrange for it to end up in a seam. So I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to choose a stitch. I don't know which one yet, but you will see when I get back and we start to slice. I have made these long, tall, I guess, pieces of black that they're appliqued on because, if you recall, I want to do some shifting. So I want to make sure I have plenty of room to square this up if I decide I want to shift a lot. I will report back when I have these appliqued. And I have 2 apples. In the end, I just did a zigzag stitch with the Metla red thread in the top and monopoly thread in the bobbin. Stitch width was 3.0 and stitch length was 1, if anyone is interested in that. I decided to stack the apples and cut strips from both the apples at the same time because I want to swap out the strips, so I'll have some stripe and some of the leaf print. Now we come to a point where there was a filming error, so I will be talking with you about what's going on here. First of all, let me apologize if you hear a chainsaw or a wood chipper in the background. We are now on day 5 of the tree company cutting down trees. They took out, I think, 6 in my next door neighbor's yard, and then second door down today, they're taking out a huge one in the front yard. Don't know what's going on, but it's been difficult to find a time to film and record because there's a lot of noise going on. So I will try to minimize that in the editing, but my apologies for that. I wish none of us had to listen to it. When I traced the second apple to get it to be the same so that I could stack it and swap out the strips, of course I didn't remember that I needed to turn that upside down as a template because of the fusible on the wrong side. It was not completely the same, but it's close enough to match it up. In order to do the cutting, I have turned the apple around so that I can more easily cut. I'm right-handed, and I'm cutting these strips. Most of them are 1 inch wide. I think I did a couple that were 7/8 inch wide. And then I'm just continuing to cut them. And as I cut, I want to sort of shift them around just to kind of see how it's going to look as I go along. It's an instant gratification thing. I continue cutting the strips 1 inch wide, mostly. I think there were 1 or 2 that were 7/8 inch, but probably not enough for you to be able to tell visually. I don't know why I did it, just to be a little perverse, I guess. And this is just a matter of cutting the 2 layers at once, doing the different strips. And this should be the final cut. And now all of the strips are cut. I have swapped out one just to see what it looks like. And I'll be starting to swap out the rest of them here momentarily. I have swapped them out now, and it's not every other one. I threw in 2 stripes there, and I've also cut 1/4 inch wide black strip, not 1/4 inch wide. It will finish at 1/4 inch. I'm cutting them 1 inch wide, and then they'll finish at 1/4 inch. And I was consistent about what's in between there. And I don't know why. It just was my sense that I wanted those to be even. And I didn't want them any wider than that. Any narrower would have been really difficult putting this many seams in. So I'm starting to sew them together now. And I'll note that while I have a built-in walking foot and IDT on my FOF, I still ended up sewing on the first strip, for example, I sewed from top to bottom. When I sewed on the next piece, I went from bottom to top and just alternated so that I wouldn't get that bowed effect that you so often get when you're sewing long strips together. It's not a perfect solution, but it works pretty well. You just have to be patient when you are pressing them. I'm just continuing to add them on and just testing with the piece underneath to see how I decided I wanted it shifted. Remember, I have 2 hearts stacked together here. Hearts. two apples stacked together here. And I just continue pressing them. And I am pressing them toward the black strip. Ordinarily, I would want to press them away from the black strip, which would serve to kind of lift up the apple from the surface, but there's too much bulk there between the fusible web and the stitching around the outside. It would just be too difficult to get it to lie flat, so I am pressing toward the black. And I just continue pressing sewing and pressing all of those pieces. Now, because of that instant gratification thing, or at least verifying that this might turn out the way I had visualized it, I've added in the 2 leaves from last week just to see how they're going to look on the apple, and I'm okay with it. It looks a little bit like a monster's eyes, but I'm basically okay with it. So it's back to doing the piecing on the strips. And at last, they are all pieced together. I'm not going to lie to you, this is a bit of a tedious process, but not too bad as quilts go, I guess. So I'm just trying to do a final pressing and trying to correct for any of that bow that might be happening, because that's a lot of narrow strips sewn together. So at this point, I'm thinking about other ways that this might be done, other things that could happen, and I encourage you to put down in the comments section what you might do. Just trying to make sure the seams are even and pressed evenly. I could have made the black strips in between wider, which would have retained more of the apple shape, because it would have replaced all that I had taken out of the shapes as I was doing the splits, because I'm taking a 1/4 inch off each side. In spite of video issues, here we are, and the apple is together. I'm quite happy with it, actually. All that I have left now is to trim it. And I will trim it to the largest I can at this point. So that would be here, down at the bottom, and then up there at the top. And that will give me room to do whatever I want in terms of putting it into a quilt. I can trim more off later. And we'll have a couple of leaves to put up at the top. I suspect there'll be something like that, although I could change how it goes together and put it closer. And that will be our apple for today. Now the next one that I want to do will have a little bit more, well, let's just say it will be a different cut, and we'll see how that goes, but that will happen next week. Hopefully the neighborhood will be quieter and I'll be able to do another one. We might do a couple more leaves. Maybe we'll do a block that has leaf and stem on it. Don't know. It could. I wonder if, no, that does not look right, does it? No. So we are going to do this. In an ideal world, I might have slipped this one down a little bit more, but I think it's all right. And of course we have to ask the question, would the wicked queen really have sliced the apple before she offered it to Snow? I don't know. Something tells me not. And of course we could do something that has a bite out of the apple here. Lots of options, definitely. But I think that will be it for this week. Sorry about the filming problems. It's been that kind of weekend. Next week, we'll do more apple, maybe start on something else. I'll see how that goes. I hope to see you then. In the meantime, be well, be safe, be happy, be quilting. Peace out.